Welcome back and thanks for joining me in this Headless CMS Part 1 session when we are going to have a look at some of the basics features of the Headless CMS. First of all, before we dive in, if you're not familiar with the Headless CMS, I want to remind you that within our Intuiface Academy, we do have this managing content with the Headless CMS course, which will give you all the basics you need to know about this feature, this online content management system, as well as this connecting to the world, which will give you all the keys on how to work with data sources, data feeds, such as Excel files or web services. This is important, and if you're not familiar with that, no worries. You will have time after the conference to have a look at these courses. In this session, I want to take the example of an existing Intuiface experience that was built, created based on an Excel file as a data source, maybe a few years ago before we had the Headless CMS. And how would you convert it into a Headless CMS based experience so that it's easier for you, for your customer, for the end users to maintain and update the content, taking the advantage of the online in-browser capability of the Headless CMS to update that content. All right, so we're going to take an example with this restaurant menu, also known as the sushi experience from our marketplace. And I have not rehearsed this, so I will try to make this conversion live within the next 15, 20 minutes that we have. If I do fast forward, I'll indicate that in the call out, but let's try not to. So this experience, first of all, we have a home scene with an attract slideshow that takes the pictures coming from one first source, one sheet in the Excel file. We have a quote, an author, we have a menu with the categories which are here. That's a second list in the Excel file. We have then our list of products with a list view on the left and the detail view on the right. That's the same content. So list number 3. And then we have the other restaurants with the locations. That's list number 4 with 3 lists, the asset grid, the swap, and the map using the same data source. That's what we have, and we are going to do a one-to-one conversion between Excel and the Headless CMS without really taking advantage of the advanced features like the variants. We will look at that tomorrow in our part number 2 session. So let's go back to my interface among the base, my Headless CMS, so in the Manage Headless CMS, and let's create a new base. So I will call this the restaurant menu for interactive 2022. That would be my base. And before I forget, I will give access to Jeff. So as a content editor, so at some point he is able to review my content and fix my broken English. The next step will be to actually create the structure. Instead of trying to do that manually, we are going to go back into a composer, open the Excel files. Remember, do a right click, edit in Excel. You can directly open that Excel file and see what we have. So I could maybe try to put this on the left. Let's see, can we do that? And put this on the right. Let's try to do this. So we're going to add some components. And again, this is a one-to-one. I'm not going to get fancy. So we're going to have 4 collections, like the 4 sheets we have in Excel. So collection number 1 will be the attract slideshow. We had 1 single column. We're going to have 1 single field. Image, yes. This doesn't look very good, shrink like that. So I'm going to put my Excel on my second screen, and you'll have to trust me on the name of the columns. But so you have a better view of what the Headless CMS structure looks like. So attract slideshow, that's basically all we need. Let's jump to the next one. We also need a collection. The next one will be our categories. In the categories, we have 4 fields. The first one is going to be an ID. Could be a text, could be a number. I'm not sure. So I'm going to call this, what was the name? Category ID. And I can actually do a copy and paste directly from Excel. So I have the exact same column names, field names. You don't have to, but it might be easier when you do the copy and paste in the end to put it on your content. Next, I do have another text, which is the name of the category itself. And then we have 2 images That's the button image released. And we have another one, which is the button image pressed. I like to go with the structure first, and then we will put all the content. So let's keep going and add the next structure, which is also a collection. And we'll go with the products. We have a bit more columns here. So first one is, again, I'm using a text. That's the category ID. That's how we will do the mix and match with the filtering. The Headless CMS has the same filtering methodology as Excel. So that's how we make the connection. This product belongs to this category. We had a category name. I'm not sure we need that, but again, I'm not trying to be clever here. I'm just reusing what has been done in this particular Excel file and sample we had on the marketplace. So product ID, then we have the name of the product itself. We have a price. I can use a number for that one. Price. We have a description. Be careful to use a text and not a long text. If you want to use a long text, the content will ask you to upload some text files, and that's not what we want to do here. We want to do some copy and paste from Excel. That would be more than enough. We need 3 more fields. One is a quantity details. Oh yeah, how many sushis do you get in the plate? And then we have 2. Let me show you the Excel. So we have 2 images, a thumbnail image and a detailed image. I believe we wanted to do some thumbnail and higher resolution, but you can see these are the same ones. So I'm going to be tiny clever and just use 1 field. There's no need to duplicate all that. And I can just call that image. That would be good enough. The last list collection will be our other locations. Okay, back to Excel. So we have an ID, location ID. We have the city, Paris, Rome, Madrid, city. We have an address, phone number. I'm still using the text here. That's the easiest field type to use. Opening hours. And then we have, what else? The image of the restaurant. And the latitude and longitude. I'm going to use numbers here. At some point, we will have the map coordinates, but for now, let's stick to 2 numbers, latitude and another number, longitude. And I just saw that I was about to do a mess here. Let me move this one down. So when I do my copy and paste, I have the right GPS coordinates. All right, so my structure is done. I can publish these changes. Okay. And then I will move on to the content. For the first one, the attract slideshow, I want to show you how to manually import that content, which you can do. You know me, I hate manual things. I hate copy and paste. So let's do it for this one because we only have 4 images. If I go back to my composer, attract slideshow, I can open my file location and go into my images. Let me try to put this here and put the base on the right-hand side. So in this one, I can do a plus here. Click on the image and sushi background. That would be number 1. Uploaded. That's okay. You can also use this button to have a pop-up where you can actually drag and drop like this. Close the pop-up. Add again. And I probably did a quick fast forward here because that's not the most interesting thing to see me do some drag and drops. But I have my 4 images. They're all in draft. I will, in any case, publish everything after the fact. So that's one way, but when you have more items or more complex structures, you don't want to do that if you already had an existing Excel and an existing list of content. So for the categories, I'm going to use this import-export feature. The first thing I want to do here is to export my CSV template. That's the template that the Headless CMS is going to wait so that I can import properly this Excel. So let me open that template. I will put this template here on the right-hand side and my original Excel on the left-hand side. So we are looking at the categories. You can see I have almost the same column names. So what I'm going to do is just copy all this and go here. I could have skipped this one. In here, I'm just going to use the same ID. This is an internal ID that needs to be unique for the Headless CMS. We will see tomorrow why you need that and why you might have multiple rows with the same ID if you use variants and variations, but that's for tomorrow. So my CSV template is filled. I'm just going to save this, Control S, close. And then in the base, I can now go into import, go in my downloads, select the template which I just filled, and let the Headless CMS do its job. It's going to analyze the CSV, check if there are variants, if the property matches the structure, and if there's a need to import some media files. And there should be for this category. So the base is asking me for 8 images. If I go back to my folder here, we have these released and pressed images. I can just select the 8 of them and drag and drop them to the right here. And because they all have individual file names, the base is going to understand where they go in the structure. So let's let it do its job. Okay, so we can see all the images have been uploaded. Everything is checked. I can do a start base update, and now the Headless CMS is going to fill in the base. Okay, we're good. Base has been completed. Now I can see my categories with my pressed and released images. Everything is already uploaded. Okay, let's move on. I'm going to do exactly the same thing for the product. So again, content export, exporting the template first. So I get my canvas in the proper CSV format, and I don't have to wonder exactly the column titles, things like that. Open my template in Excel. I'm again putting this on the right-hand side and then going to my products on the left-hand side. And let's select all of this. Remember, I have only one image column because I don't need to duplicate that. So if I paste here, we should be good. And we do need a unique ID, internal ID for these numbers. So you can just use the Excel feature to generate numbers here. Closing this, saving, and then going back and do the same thing, importing the CSV and then drag and dropping the images that the base is going to ask me. So I'm going to fast forward this part. All right, so we have all our images uploaded. The base is going to be updated with these images. Everything's going to be stored on the Intuiface cloud, and we are good to go. Last one, can you get the ID? Import, export, getting the template, filling the template with the media and the information coming from the original Excel file, and then importing back the CSV file. Again, I'm going to pass on this one, skip on this one, and so you see the result here. So as you can see, we filled all the content. Now I'm going to just publish these changes, so that all the content is available. And then I can switch in Composer and start doing the replacement of the data sources and adjusting the bindings. So back in Composer, let's start with the home scene. And the first thing we need to do is to add our base. All right, so clicking on the Headless CMS base, I now have my restaurant menu, Interactive 2022. I can add this base. And you can see it is actually synchronizing the content. If I open the X-ray panel, I will see my categories, my slideshow, my products, and my other locations. So basically the same things I had in Excel, but coming from the cloud, much easier to maintain and update. So if I look first at this attract here, we have our slideshow. If I click not on the collection, not on the template, but on the data feed, this rows off, I can go into the properties on the right-hand side and select, instead of rows of attract slideshow, I want to use my attract slideshow from within my HCMS base of restaurant menu. By doing this, the image disappeared. That's because the binding has been broken. So I just need to remove that binding, create a new one, and select from my current data source image because I have only one field. That's done. So let's move on to the next collection. We have our rows of categories here, the buttons at the bottom end. Again, I can change the data source, select my categories of restaurant menu. This is coming from the Headless CMS. And again, I need to update these bindings. So if I put my mouse over here, this little icon, I will see exactly how many bindings there are on this button. I see 2 of them, the released image and the pressed image. But be careful, you might have some things bound within the action. Like right now, we are doing an add filter on the products. We will need to change that and to filter our Headless CMS base instead. So same idea, you do need to update these bindings. Maybe one day we'll automate that. We'll be clever enough to do a mix and match between the Excel column names and the fields in the Headless CMS. But assuming these names are not going to be exactly the same, you do need to redo these bindings, which depending on your structure and the complexity, shouldn't take too long. Now, if I look at the actions that we have on these categories, we can see that this is doing some things on the view side and the assets on some collections. So it doesn't matter much here, but on the filter, we were filtering Excel. We do need to update this action. And instead of filtering the Excel list of products, we want to replace that. And let's be careful, we're using category ID, using the category ID from the list of categories. I want to apply an action on my base, on my restaurant menu HCMS base. I want to do a filter on the products. So it will be on this products collection. I want to add a filter, and now you can see the same filters you had available on Excel, you do have them available on the Headless CMS. And like for Excel, they are done locally. So category ID, that's indeed the property that I want to filter. And I want to reuse, let me check this binding is correct, my category ID coming from my current data source, which is the Headless CMS, my restaurant menu. That's it. Might have something to update, no start new session. You shouldn't have to do much here on the analytics. Yeah, no binding here. So home scene, we're good. I'm gonna do the same thing on the list of products. And looking at the clock, I'm probably going to fast forward this a little bit, but I hope you can see the idea of you select your collections, you change a data feed from Excel to the corresponding data feed coming from your base, and then you update the bindings for the different fields. So let's see how we do this for the products. So we did the bindings in the template itself, looking at all these little bullets. Now I need to make sure that on the action, on the button, there's no binding. And there is probably one that will go to the proper item ID in this swap collection. All right, this is done for the asset grid on the left. I still need to do the detailed view here and then the other locations, but it's basically going to be exactly the same methodology. Change the data feed, change the bindings, check the actions. Once you're done, then you can just delete your whole Excel file and you have a brand new experience based on the Headless CMS. I hope this was helpful and you now have an idea on how to convert your existing Excel-based experience into a headless CMS-based experience. We're going to go to the live Q&A session. And remember, tomorrow we have another session where we will use more unique features of the headless CMS, such as the variant and variations. And we will also talk a little bit about scheduling. Thank you.